Once again, hello and aloha to all the Baha'is of the world. Today is 13th of December, time is 11:21. My name is Abbas Temori, I'm the elder of Baha'u'llah. Last time I spoke about mass teaching, and I mentioned that besides the original book in the Baha'i faith, the holy text, we do need to draw a picture of what a country looks like once the majority of the people are Baha'is. And that would be a very important task, because it will attract a lot of people into the faith which otherwise would not be drawn directly into the faith of God. And I previously, before this, I mentioned the revelation of God has a great affinity with the nature of God. The same way the natures are bad and good in it, says the books of God. There are places that if you do not know and you get into it, it might be misleading. And I also said that people love natures, many, but they can't live in it permanently. So we turn the nature into this house, livable for a human being. The same way, the revelation of God has to be reconstructed. The material has to be taken from it, formulas, the substance, and then we have to generate a new philosophy, which is Baha'i faith, or it's born out of Baha'i faith. It's coming out of the Baha'i faith. That would be really a philosophy in the Baha'i faith. That has been my attempt in all of these videos. I brought this subject to a very important Baha'i, and he mentioned that your approach, that's mine, he meant, of attracting people through transient reasons and subjects to enter into the Baha'i faith, it brings the status of the Baha'i faith down. You know, this is a subtle topic. This is something that people have to be in the spiritual realm to get it. This is the misconception of a lot of people that I've already explained that in the previous videos. I don't know which number episode. But I've said that Baha'i faith is a response from God for at least 1,000 years, in this day and age, for all the people on the planet, to fulfill their desires. Anything that's legitimate, that is right, Baha'i faith covers it. So if a person approaches Baha'u'llah because he wants to marry, he wants to learn from Baha'u'llah how to marry, he's welcome. Somebody wants to become wealthy, somebody wants to get a job. Anything you want to do that's right, Baha'i faith will cover it. If you like to approach here to smoke cocaine, there's nothing like that. So people can get attracted to the faith for sometimes strange reasons, very strange reasons. But it is a very important prime directive in the Baha'i faith that we are not here to judge people. We can't. We can't even judge ourselves. Many great Baha'is, in the course of time, they might waver and they might harm themselves from the faith of the believers, which we don't know who they are. We have seen in the history people like Charles Mason Remy and thousands of others. So we can't judge really why a person is becoming a Baha'i. But we are told by Shoghi Effendi, if a person says, I believe in Bab, Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the world order of Baha'u'llah, comprised of two houses of universal laws of justice, universal laws of guardianship, that person's a Baha'i. To us, we cannot look. So we could and we should attract people as at the final picture that Baha'u'llah has, like a stereogram, it is in his writing that we are out here to draw that pictures and bring it to people. So for any reason. So we have to draw, in my opinion, a country like Canada, let's say, what happens if people are becoming Baha'i, what the constitution looks like and what not. So naturally, when the majority of the people, they turn into Baha'i faith, you will have a Baha'i government. So, as I promised, I have drawn some principles that they could be the elements of the Baha'i national constitution in a country. And as I'm going to read it, these are not all the points, but what could come in my mind in a couple of hours that I think about it. And I guess in all my life. So, number one, it will read in that constitution. 1. We recognize that His Divine Majesty Baha'u'llah is the manifestation of unknowable God. His divine revelation, known as Baha'i faith, is the essential guideline for the sustenance and progress of all aspects of the human life on this planet and elsewhere. This item 1 is the recognition of man that he on his own cannot do it, not yet. Therefore, Baha'i faith becomes an integrated part of our life as a guideline that we are coached by God to do it. This is a recognition. Number 2, the constitution of a Baha'i government is the consequence and projections of this essential recognition. So in the number 2, we're saying that, well, once we become Baha'i, we'll recognize the faith of God, and then we want to live our daily life. We have to project. We build that house, as I said, out of the faith of God. That would be the projections of our understanding of the faith. That would become the constitution in a country. Number 3. As defined by divine authors of the cause of God, mankind as a whole is one organic being of which every human being is a part and every nation is a cohort. This is the essential part of the constitution of the Baha'i faith that accepts the existence of a universal government that embraces all the humanity as one and all. Diverse but not, but united. Number 4. Every human being is unique and noble in his/her originality. Thus, we are born and evolve differently, yet must have equal rights and privileges to establish the principles of equality and coexistence as ordained by the manifestation of God. You know, this is very important. Even I heard Abraham Lincoln said that too. That we're all equal in the sight of God. We are actually not equal in the sight of God. We're all different. If you ask God, use the mathematics, and out of these 8 billion people, name the first one, he will go to the one right to the last billion. We're different, but this different makes us to have equal right, equal privileges. Otherwise, we are different. None of us can copycat each other. This is the reason that there's justice in this universe. If there was exactly another one like me, which some people say twins are, no, twins are just their hardware, their body is the same, not their soul. So, because the soul is made by the choices. Therefore, we're different. We have to accept these differences, and we have to give these equal privileges to everyone. That's the way it should be. Okay, number 5. The underlying purpose and the foundation of a Baha'i government is to recognize these natural and selected differences between people and coordinate them in unison to establish the divine principle of unity and diversity as prescribed by the infallible author of the cause of God. So one of the principles in the Baha'i faith is the unity and diversity. We have to understand how to unite these diverse elements, put them together. That's what Baha'u'llah is here to tell us, how to put these pieces together. This is the secret of God. One man does not have the truth. Somehow the truth is like those pieces that you see sometimes in the movies in the Hollywood, a talisman of many pieces. Every piece is somewhere in the world. This is really true, that you might have the piece of the truth, but it does not look anything to, it looks like a junk. But you meet another person, and as you talk and consult, all of a sudden the truth comes right out of it. That's what Abdul Baha says. From the clashes of opinion, truth sparkles out. So, according to Baha'u'llah, we cannot individually become him. But if we use his formula, the way he says to elect, when you create the universal laws of justice, 9 ordinary people, the way he says to put them together, though, if the broken pieces of a glass are put together accordingly, you can get a full picture. Just like a jigsaw puzzle. You can't just put them together in any order. The order comes from Baha'u'llah, how to put it together. But if you do, all of a sudden something strange happens. The truth comes right out of the ordinary people. Yes. Together we can produce it. So this is the unity that comes, in diversity. We're diverse, but you have to be united. Number 6. The mechanism by which the dynamics of the faith is continued by the hand of the human being is the principles of the cause of God that states religion has to be in accordance with science and logic. Thus, the course of action and formulating the constitution of the nation is scientocracy, with additional aid from the divine source of the revelation. Oh, that's a very strange word. I thought I invented it myself, scientocracy. But then I looked at the Googles. There, behold, somebody before me thought of the word. So, one of the principles in the Baha'i faith, we all know that religion is to be according to science and logic. This is not a reference that the book of Baha'u'llah is to be according to science and logic. Those books has been revealed already. Our understanding of it has to be according to science and logic. You see? This faith that we are going to understand, and we're going to produce our understanding in order to create a language that the entire world can understand it, then has to be a logical and scientific approach. Because millions of things has not been revealed in the Baha'i faith, and it has to be decided later on. Baha'u'llah says simply don't come together. Say, okay, I'm electing this and that and that and that, and it works. No. He says there has to be a guideline. That guideline is science and logic. Okay, religion, if you want to continue it, you have to use that. So, hand in hand, Shoghi, and this is the time that it comes that religion and science, hand in hand, it will work to create, as it was opposing each other all the time in the Middle Ages. Scientists were killed by the religious people in Iran, in in Europe. Those days, Shoghi Effendi said it's gone. Now the science and religion have to come together hand in hand because it's a part of the Baha'u'llah's, principles. Number 7. The mechanism of the progress in a Baha'i society is set forward by the inquiring mind of the scientist and changes in the environment that develops new field of necessities and need in human life. Spiritual understanding of the faith of God defines its use and utility in relationship to people. This is what the divine guardian of the cause of God have envisaged. An environment where religion and science work hand in hand with one another. I just explained that. How do we do the progress? It's the scientists. They come up with newer stuff, something we don't know. Or the environment changes, the situation comes, that the necessity of law comes. One of remember one of the persons said to me, just give me an example, a very graphic one. I said, okay, for example, Baha'u'llah says by choice, of course, not by force. You could follow the law of inheritance that he has brought in his books, in which the house, your main house, will have to go to your oldest son. You could choose this or you could your own way. But somebody chooses his way. Now the guy dies, and his son is supposed to get, according to the Baha'i law, the main house. But this gentleman, in future, he had a change of heart. He went and changed his sex. He injected a lot of estrogen. He's no longer a man. He's a woman. So what do we call him now? Is this the son? Is this the daughter now? I can't decide. But when the time comes, the necessity kicks in, we'll have to look to see what to do. This is where we have to use the science, logic, and all that kind of things. Of course, when I'm saying scientists, I don't mean physicists and chemists. No. Science is a general word that I use, but includes every part of the knowledge that's recognized, including psychology, sociology, name it, anything. Theology. These are all a part of the human understanding and the way we do. All right. Number 8. A Baha'i society is an organic structure, the foundation of which is built upon the families consisting primarily of male and female parents, husband and wife. By accepting Baha'i faith as their personal choice, have agreed that the guiding principles of Baha'u'llah will be a virtual member of their family and a point of reference in living their lives. Thus, the elected representative will do everything in their power to recognize and subsidize families, so that parenthood does not become an economical burden on parents. There are two types of societies. One is dead society, one is a alive society. A dead society is a non-living thing. A stone is made out of atoms. A living being is made out of cell. We call a dog living because it's made out of cell, the unit called cell. A plant, a human being. A Baha'i society is made out of a living cell. That cell is called family. That is the unit. Baha'i society does not promote the people to live individually on their own. It's not an individualistic-based society as it is right now in Canada. In Canada, they don't recognize family. They say man and women both have to go to work. In the Baha'i society, it's not like that. Parenthood of a mother or a father becomes a job. They actually get paid to raise children for the society, a right one, a good one, a taxpayer. The one that is not becoming overburdening the society, but the one that is going to contribute to the society. In that case, parenthood becomes a job, however they decide about it in future. But under no circumstances a child is born and they've taken the privilege from him to have mother to take care of him, or a father, or at least one of them, for sometimes, otherwise both of them. Later on in the day, 8 hours a child can be away from the father, then he has to see his father, or it will not become a normal human being. So it's a family-based society. That's the constitution. This is an element. Number 9, the founder of our faith has recognized 3 distinct elements of governance in a Baha'i nation, which are kingdom, national house of justice, and Baha'i governments. If you study the writings, when we look at it, there's 3 governing, organs that has been identified. Baha'u'llah specifically says that the kingdom has to stay in the land. The kings are the sign of God. And he mentions the kingdom in London. He says, that's the right one, where there's kings and there's also democracy. So kingdom is one element. And everywhere we have read that in the nation there's National Spiritual Assembly, which later on, when majority of the people they become Baha'i, it turns into National House of Justice, in which all the members are male. And I proposed in the writing, in the stereograms, using a stereogram system, it is in the writing that there has to be a National House of Guardianship as well, comprised of women only. So the order of Baha'u'llah, which talks about universal laws of justice and the universal laws of guardianship, is an essential part of the governance in the Baha'i faith. Thirdly, we also read in primarily in the writing of Shogi Effendi, where he talks about the Baha'i governments. This word is there. So you have to understand that Baha'i government is not National House of Justice, and that's not a king. These are the 3 elements of it that I have studied. Okay, I'm going to explain them. Number 10, kingdom is essentially recommended but not limited. Any other organ such as presidency can fulfill this function. Kings, the nation builders of the past, function to keep the national identity, historical value, essentially a link to our past. A budget is assigned for its financial need, and it works as a non-profit organization. Whatever its constituting foundations, it is strictly prohibited from interfering in a matter pertaining to the Baha'i government and organs of the world order of Baha'u'llah. When Baha'u'llah says luck in London, meaning the kingdom in London, how is it? Does not interfere into the system and politics and nothing. Therefore, such kingdom is envisaged by Baha'u'llah. But it's very important. If you look at it in the past, from the pre-politics time, there was not politics really. There was the kings were the organs and the factors. They were the elements, the main ingredients, the point of return, the gravitational field, that they would create nations. And we all know that. So many kings everywhere. The second element has been always religion. Religion also has put together into the nations, as we know it in the past. Now, the politics have come after Baha'u'llah. Now we have different situations. In the Baha'i faith, we're saying that kingdom is like father, religion is like a mother. Mother and father are old now, but they should not be killed. They are in a poor society. That their child is democracy in the center. So we could have a kingdom and a religious government, which there isn't anywhere right now, in a nation, as a governing parties, as a governing, system, but yet they are not a part of the central government, where we have to deal with the traffic signs and budget and economy and buildings and taking care of the environment and all that. That is not what they do. The king in a Baha'i country, it tells us where we came from in that nation. Okay, it tells us where was the point of beginning. It's like a museum. He is like the person who's telling us. So there are a lot of things in a country that falls under their jurisdiction, as will be decided in the future. That's what they do. Now, the second one, number 11, there's the spiritual dimension. An affair of the nations are governed by the National House of Justice and the National House of Guardianship, as defined by the Baha'i texts. According to the principle of non-involvement of religion in politics, the organ of the world order of Baha'u'llah has no role in Baha'i government. An individual member of the Baha'i government may be elected from amongst non-Baha'is in a nation by the Baha'is with no prejudice and precautions. However, voting and membership of the Baha'i institution as well as the other religious institution remains exclusive to the members of that particular faith. As a Baha'is in a government, we do elect our member of National House of Justice, National House of Guardianship. Only Baha'is can vote there. Baha'is can get elected. Other religions are allowed to have their organization, Muslim, Christians, whoever it is in there, their own fashion, their own ways. But none of them can interfere into the matter of the government and the matter of the Baha'i government. In the Baha'i government, why is it called Baha'i government and not Universal Laws of Justice? Is because Baha'u'llah very well knows, and all we can, perceive that ourselves, that all the people in one country, they will not become Baha'i, naturally. Many of them, even they're born Baha'i, they don't want to do anything with religion. So, if majority of people are Baha'is, Baha'u'llah does not want to force them to live with the law of the Universal Laws of Justice or the National Laws of Justice, which is exclusively for the Baha'is. People have the right. If that happens, then majority of the Baha'is are dictating the minorities to follow their faith, their rules, their everything in everyday life. And that is forbidden in the Baha'i faith. This is why there is a secondary organization called Baha'i government, in where the Baha'is and non-Baha'is, they can thrive and work together. We as a Baha'i, we do not believe that the person who calls himself Baha'i is the best man for the job. May not be. A Muslim, a Christian might be, a Buddhist might be. An agnostic might be, an atheist. We still think this man is honest enough and is good enough, we might vote him to become the president or the prime minister of the country. We're not forcing him. You see? But whether the religion of a king in the country would have to be a Baha'i or not, I cannot decide today. I will leave that to people to decide for themselves in future. In my opinion, even if the king is a Baha'i, he has to have other people from other religions to work in that kingdom with him, as they are represented by the number of those people from different religious groups in that country. But if it happens that the king becomes a non-Baha'i, I don't think there's any objection to that either. Strictly speaking, only the Baha'i institution, they have to be Baha'i, because this is a spiritual issue. It's a very important matter. So, this was the number 11. Go to the number 12. Based on the ancient philosophy of mankind and the Baha'i faith, the world of creation consists of two interdependent elements that flow through everything and anything. The Baha'i government is no exception. Hence, there are two houses comprised